Who else is a job hopper? Show of hands. Yeah, there's a few out there, huh? I know when I look back over my resume, until my current position, I don't think I had stayed at a job more than 6 years. I think that was actually my longest one. My current position is 7 years. I'm on my seventh year. Why am I so restless? Why are we so restless? Let's get into it. Welcome back to Soulful Wonderings, the space where we search for meaning in everyday life and honor the lessons that help us grow. I'm Heather and I'm your host. And before we get started, we would love it if you would subscribe to our podcast. And we would also love it if you would head over to our socials and follow us there. And we will put all that information in the show notes. So as we get into the new year, identity has been on my mind a lot lately. And I think I'm struggling with where I am in life. Do you know what I mean? I thought I would have progressed things further by now, but you know what? Life did its thing and makes that not so easy at times. Plus, there are choices. I work all day, so I have a limited amount of time otherwise. And often, you know what? I just have shit to do. Okay, there's just stuff. We have lives, we have families. There's also some things I just want to do. I don't want to work all the time. And sometimes I'm just tired. But again, I can't work all the time. But sometimes I feel like I should. Do you know anybody else? But maybe that's not part of the conversation. I've spent many years and most of my career looking for where I fit. Looking for it. Quote unquote it. Do you know what I mean? The place where I belong, where I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. But life has never seemed to work out that way. Maybe it has. Maybe I just thought it would look differently. I've had a lot of jobs, y'all. Not to mention there were times where I worked, 2 and 3 jobs at a time just because you're trying to make enough money. To not just pay the bills, but do things, Now, I went to school for advertising design. I had minors in broadcast journalism and photography. And I think I was trying to find a way to find training in the things I enjoyed. I think that's why I had, all those things going on when I was in school. I loved doing the creative things. And then, of course, I've always loved TV and movies and such. I think I mentioned before that I wanted to be an actress or maybe even a singer when I was younger. Or just to make movies, be an animator. I just wanted to be part of that process somehow, that entertainment process. But going to film school of any kind just wasn't in the cards. So I often say I got the degree that I could get, that I could get sort of locally around here. And look, I'm not complaining, mind you, I'm not. For years, I think I held some animosity about that. But the truth is, the more I know, I'm glad that I never dove into that world. I'm actually just grateful that never happened. Now, of course, part of that is because I've never been good at confrontation, and I'm truthfully not very good at standing up for myself and things like that. I think I'm finally learning how to now, more in recent years. Plus, you hear all these awful things about Hollywood and how people are used and abused, and how many people never make it, or that just generally struggle their entire career, And with my, doormat personality, that most likely would not have ended well. So the end result, I think, is that I've bounced around to a lot of jobs for years. I worked a lot of retail. That was easy. I grew up helping my family run their businesses, so customer service was, easy for me. And those jobs are generally kind of easy to find. You can bounce around a lot in retail, I find. I've worked in TV on the production side. I worked at a radio group. I was with the salespeople. By the way, I suck at sales. I cannot do it. And radio was just radio and sales. They just weren't my bag, y'all. They weren't my thing. I've just worked at various companies in some capacity of marketing, graphic design, some kind of event planning, community outreach, public relations, any of those things that fall under that umbrella. That's what I've done. And of course, some of that I think was just you needed a job. You needed a job. You needed to work. I got out of school. I looked for a job. I wanted to work in TV somehow, and that's where I landed. I was behind the scenes. Moved away, got my first big girl job, met my husband there, which was great. I feel like I stayed stuck though in some kind of assistant or coordinator level for a while. Then it became more of a director, manager of something. But those are often one person departments. So yes, you are a manager, but that's really in like a corporate matrix, not of people, because again, you're one person. The thing you learn there though is that you wear a lot of hats. Okay, some days I'm designing, some days I'm buying media. There's just so many things, budgeting, putting on events, social media management, all of the things. It all falls under marketing, so I do it. But that's how small companies tend to work. They don't have full departments, or if they do, they're super small. We're talking 1, 2. If you have like 3 people, you're probably lucky in small companies. So you do the work of several people. That's just how it works. So when I was younger, I decided not to do the movie thing. I moved towards marketing. But I often thought that I would move to the big city, right? I'd work my way up through a corporation and be the marketing director somewhere. I don't even have a good example. I'm talking big, like Coca-Cola, Nike, one of the big dogs. Like, that's what I wanted to do. But that whole idea kind of fell to the wayside too, because it just wasn't me. I guess it may be a lot like the Hollywood thing. I'm not that person that's going to get in there and scrap and fight and submarine somebody else so that I can get a job. That's just not me. So as I was moving up through the quote unquote corporate world in these smaller towns, I saw myself change. I had always been a bit of a free spirit, I guess, trying to fit in. And I always tried, and I changed. I tried to be like other people. I put on suits and I spoke in corporate jargon. I played the game. It's what you had to do. And I hated every minute of it. I'm an introvert that has basically been forced to be an extrovert for my job. And it is fucking draining every time I have to do it. It takes everything out of me every time I have to do that. But it's the way you network. It's the way you meet people. It's the way you find the next job, right? But at the end of the day, I think I would just get tired of a job. And I'm thinking it's because, I was trying to move up. I was trying to get a better position. So you would kind of move around trying to get that little bit better position. But also at times I was just trying on a different position, a different title. Maybe this one was more design heavy. So I wanted to try that. And then, I'm not really sure. So then I would find one that was more event heavy and I would do that. So I wasn't always chasing the better, quote unquote, better position. I think I was chasing the one that made me happy. Okay, now hear me. No job is happy 100% of the time. I think we all know that. There's always something that you don't love. I don't love the minutia, the details. Oh my God, I hate the details sometimes. And don't even get me started on IT and web design. Okay, that's not true. I don't mind figuring out how it should look or the writing and things like that. But making it work makes me want to rip my hair out, especially when it doesn't. And then you've got to troubleshoot. As long as everything's going okay, I'm actually okay. And I'm actually fairly tech savvy. So I can do it. I don't want to do it. Please, Lord, the first thing I will hire will be an IT person who understands this stuff. I'll also have to admit that through all these years and doing all these things, I know a lot of shit, okay? I've literally been on every side of the table. I've been the owner, I've been the designer, the agency, sales, creative, you name it, I've done it. I've literally been on every side of that table, and I've learned a lot. And in some ways, I actually offer a rather unique skill set because of how much I can do. There's a lot of people that they've only touched parts of this. So I've been told anyway that for someone that I know a lot, and that most people just don't do that, especially these days. People will call it multifaceted. They'll call it multi-interest. You also have people that say, you're the master of none. You heard that? Sometimes it definitely feels that way. I know a little about a lot of things, but I don't know that I'm a master of any of those. Some days that bothers me. Others, I like that I have a lot of interest. I like that I know about a lot of things. But you know what I find most fascinating? And I just figured this out when I started my spiritual journey. I realized how fake I was being. How I had spent my entire life conforming. Which, guess what? This is why nothing ever felt aligned. Because it wasn't. But let me tell you, finding the balance is no joke. How do you allow the free spirit part of you to come out and still be taken seriously? Because let me tell you, especially in the South and in corporate settings where women are still trying to break the glass ceiling, the flighty Pisces personality isn't going to fly in that setting, y'all. But maybe that was part of the problem. I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and I was just in the wrong setting. But all my life, you hear that these more creative ventures, things that don't have stable incomes and such, are just too risky. All right. I remember my mom wouldn't support me getting a degree in art, straight up art, because she said I would never make money painting. So what she told me was, she said, I needed a degree that could actually make money. And what did I do? I listened. And that was most likely her projection for her own fears and issues. I'm sure there was many a day that she felt trapped in her marriage, but needed the money and the support and things like that. Again, another topic, but still conditioning, and I listened. But see, here's the rest. I had been hiding myself long before that, long before college decisions were ever on the table. Even as a kid, I was doing it. Now that I think about it, it was much like my career. We moved a lot. My parents moved us for new businesses or opportunities. Guess where I got it? I changed schools 12 times in 13 years. 12 times. Trying to make new friends and figure out a new culture and area was just kind of a way of life for me. It's just what we did. And I guess I learned to adapt early. And adapt I did. I found myself morphing depending on my situation. If I was with coworkers that were more casual, so was I. I would change my vocabulary. If I was at a networking event, I switched to full-on professional with corporate speak. I could hang with just about anybody because that's how my life had been. Here's the thing, figuring out which one of those was really me, it actually never dawned on me, I think, in my conscious, but subconsciously that was part of the problem. I didn't know who me was. I'd been forced to adapt so much in my younger life. I don't know who I was. That's the time when you're growing and developing. And my environment changed so often that I couldn't even rely on that. It's like I was a nomad, and I adapted to survive, much less thrive. So that's who I became as an adult. I was adapting to fit in and to please others. That's what I'd done all my life. No wonder the quote-unquote it thing was so elusive. Oh, and then we factor in how much was being hidden from me as far as my heritage in the spiritual realm. We've talked about that some more of that will be coming. So, all of that is factoring in. So here I am now. I'm 7 years in and I'm feeling the itch, y'all. But here's the thing. I don't think I want to find a new job this time. That's not really what this is about. I actually enjoy my job very much. I enjoy my coworkers. I enjoy my boss. I've got a great gig and I really do. I really do enjoy it. I just want to finally be aligned. I want to make sure that I'm following my calling. Hear me again. I think part of my calling is to help people. And part of that is using creativity to do it. Is the choice of marketing doing that? In a way, sure it is. I'm actually creative all the time. I'm helping companies. I'm also helping consumers who need our products. And I would say especially my last two jobs, this one and the one before, those have been products or services that they're needed and they truly do help people. And I think I was getting a lot closer kind of to the calling, to the thing with those. I really did want something where I could really help people when I was looking for these jobs. And the things that I've learned help me in my business today. All these things that I've learned over the years, they help me do this business. So these skills are huge, and they're being put to use every day, and to put this all together. So I don't regret anything, and I also think it may be important to say that if you know your calling is to help people, there's a lot of ways to do that. Marketing is a fine way to do that. And like I said, I've enjoyed it. I really have. I've enjoyed everything I've done, and I've learned so much. But I think as I learn some of these things in the spiritual journey, and I'm learning about other things that I can do, those just feel a little more aligned. Had I known those earlier, I would have gone a completely different direction. But what I know and what I'm able to do would also be completely different, right? So I say I don't regret those choices. There are times that I have regret, though. There are times when I look at this and I go, why the fuck did it take me so long to figure this out? But they also say that things happen in the time they're supposed to. So I don't know that I could have been in this mindset and been able to accept the healing that I've done before now. I think everything has happened exactly in the time that it was supposed to. So that's just hard for the control freak in me to accept. But yeah, again, different discussion. So let's throw one more thing in the mix. I say I feel like I have found the it thing now, but that's pretty recent, and that's actually still a work in progress. When I started this journey was when it really hit me that maybe my calling had a more spiritual feel to it. Like maybe my world wasn't supposed to be corporate anymore, but that doesn't mean it made sense right away. Okay, I've been working this out for years. I've tried things, I've scrapped things, I've started again. And really, just like the corporate gig, things didn't work because they weren't aligned. But like I said, I was working it out. I was learning, kind of like the corporate gig. Every time I would do something, I would learn something else. And even though there were days where it didn't feel like progress, you're looking at it going, my God, that was a baby step. But guess what? That's still progress. I was making progress. And I truly believe that part of my healing has been understanding that I was learning and that it was all part of a bigger picture. Again, just like it had been through my whole career. Every piece I learned built on a previous step. We also have to consider that this is years upon years of conditioning to let go of that feeling that I have to adjust and be who the person in front of me needs me to be. Sometimes that is still beneficial because it helps me meet people where they are. But finding myself in who I want to be or who I'm meant to be is still important in my journey. I still need to know who I am I believe, in order to help other people. I'm grateful for this journey. I'm grateful for all the learning, for moving, even if it feels super slow at times. And I'm grateful to have more understanding, to discern all of this now, to recognize the need for processing feelings and signs, right? I don't have all this figured out. I'm still learning how to trust myself without needing permission. Still learning how to let my free spirit coexist with responsibility in real life. But for the first time, I'm not looking for the next job to save me. I'm looking for alignment, and that feels so different. It feels slower, quieter, and a whole lot more honest. So I want to leave you with a couple questions to sit with. Where in your life are you adapting instead of aligning? What version of you shows up at work? And who are you when no one needs anything from you? Is your restlessness asking you to quit, or is it asking you to tell the truth? You don't have to have the answers for that today. Just awareness of it is enough for now. So if any part of this resonated with you, I would love for you to sit with it for a bit, maybe journal, maybe take a walk, and just notice what comes up. And if you want to continue these kinds of conversations about identity healing, finding your way, you're always welcome here. Again, this is Soulful Wonderings. And until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're allowed to grow at your own pace.